Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, the show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And the PFL World Tournament semi-final is ready to take place, and Carlos and I, as always, are ready to break down the entire card, starting with the prelims, heading to the main event, all the way in Nashville. But one gentleman who is here to break it all down with me is Carlos. What's happening, Carlos?
Absolutely nothing, brother.
And we're going to dive right in here on the Ground and Pound podcast. If you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button as we start off in the early prelims with Anthony Ivy taking on Magomed Umalatov. And I'm going to pass this one over to Carlos. Carlos, who you got in this one?
Who I took in this one was Umalatov. Okay. Ivy, I felt was more technical, standing. He likes to pretty much fight at his pace. From whatever videos I watched, he's we'll call him patient, but he's not the quickest guy. He's not the aggressor. He's going to look for counter punching. He's going to look for his openings. And Umalatov is somewhat technical on the feet. Sometimes he could be a little wild. He does have good technique, though, but he loves to come forward and he loves to push the pace. He doesn't really like to have any dead time in between strikes, in between movements, which is great because it's going to be very entertaining in that portion. But it's going to suck for Ivy because he likes to have that time to think, to look for something, look for an opening. And I feel that he's going to be on his heels as Umalatov is most likely going to be pressing him. Strikes on the feet, takedowns, clinch up against the cage. I don't see him giving him much breathing room. Shamil, I want to say Musayev, he had a lot of success with Umalatov, mainly because they had the same skill set. He wasn't too worried about his wrestling. I know he felt he can get back up, and that ended up being a little bit more of a stand-up war. And he had success only because he could slow him down. He wasn't worried about the takedowns too much. He was able to rip the shots that he wanted to when he saw the opening. And I just don't feel that Ivy's going to have that ability because I don't think he has the same skill set on the ground or to defend the takedowns that Musayev had. So, yep, I went with Umalatov in this one.
Yeah, two for Umalatov here, fairly confident in him, and very upsetting that he's not in the actual tournament. He missed weight in his first fight. Obviously, the PFL decided to obviously get rid of him and change that matchup, so he's out of the tournament bracket now on the prelims here against Ivy. And Ivy training out of the War Training Center with fighters like Zach Reese and Trevin Giles. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. 35 years old, so a little bit tough to see when his whole skill set is going to fall off a cliff at this point. I will say about Anthony Ivy, though, he is pretty much a born finisher. 7 of his wins coming by knockout, 8 by submission. The graphic on your screen is not 6-2. Unfortunately, that was a problem with our graphics team. I'll have a word with them and give them a good talking to. But one thing I will say about Anthony Ivy is he has very nice back takes, but I don't think that's necessarily going to be enough in this style matchup here. I think this one's mostly going to play out on the feet. Umalatov, obviously very credentialed inside the PFL. 17-1 is one loss at the moment, coming to Shamil, as Carlos pointed out, who's a very, very credentialed wrestler and striker who ended up winning the whole tournament. Trains at American Top Team, and he's very, very heavy-handed, very, very nice boxing, doesn't throw a ton of kicks, and can mix in some of the wrestling as well if he wants to. But I think this one mostly plays out on the feet. I think Umalatov looks for the big right hand. And I think that Anthony Ivy really just doesn't have the chin or the skill set here to be able to really do a whole lot with Umalatov. I think this one plays out on the feet, and I think Umalatov gets him. I do say that Anthony Ivy does have a nice sort of well-rounded game, but he's just not on the level of Umalatov. Wherever this fight plays out, I think that he's going to be the better fighter. And next up, we have Adjoudj taking on vs. Landu, and I'm going to kick things off here with these two. And I was pretty impressed with Adjoudj. Trains out of SBG Ireland, 28-3 professional kickboxing record before he entered the world of MMA. Now currently 9-1. He has very, very nice kicks to the body, which I like. He will sort of do the Leon Edwards where he'll go to the body multiple times and then come upstairs. And he has very, very fast hands as well. He mixes in things very, very nicely with the striking. So definitely one to watch. Obviously, the taller guy in this matchup here, which I think will play a big factor, not necessarily with the reach, but just being able to pressure forward against the smaller fighter here in Yundoon. And I just overall thought to myself, if this is mostly a striking matchup, I think this one could go very much back and forth. But the reason that I've decided to go with Adjoudj here is his ability to get at the grappling going against Bruno Montez in one of his previous PFL fights was pretty impressive. He came out, he looked like he was going to strike with his opponent. He came out, level changed, got the takedown, controlled him for pretty much whole of the first round, and he did a great job there. He's obviously been working very heavily on his grappling. I think he's very, very well rounded. And to me, Landu is hard to trust. He was supposed to fight Gabriel Braga in the tournament previously in the last round. Unfortunately, had some visa issues. Obviously, I don't know, maybe Donald Trump didn't want to let him in, who knows, but 38 years old, hard to trust. He tends to bounce around on the outside, not necessarily known for his power. He can mix in takedowns. He does have good level changes, but overall here, I just think that he's just going to be outsized, and I give the power edge to Adjoudj. And overall, I've been impressed with Adjoudj's grappling here. So give me Adjoudj. I think he gets it done. I feel fairly confident here. And also 26 taken on 38, 12 years, his senior. I think Landu here is probably going to be a little bit out of his depth, and I don't think him bouncing around on the outside is going to lead to a victory here. Carlos, who you got in this one?
In this one, I went with Adjoudj, right? Am I saying that correct?
Yeah. Spot on, yeah.
Okay, Adjoudj, okay. Landu, I think he has a big advantage in the experience level. He's been around for a while, has a lot of MMA fights. That plays into this. I also think he has a advantage in the grappling and the wrestling as well. Although Adjoudj's ground attack looked pretty good in the last fight that you mentioned, and the man with a 28-3 kickboxing record, he looked pretty sharp on the ground. So I would say Yves has the advantage, but I don't know. This kid, also being 26, may just have the energy, the cardio, and the technique to push him if it gets to the ground. I don't think there's an aspect of this fight where Landu has like a definitive advantage, but I feel Adjoudj mixes up his strikes and his grappling very well, so you don't know where a strike is coming from or a takedown, because he does like to change levels, even if he's just faking a takedown as well. So yeah, I ended up going with Adjoudj. I think he's got the skill, the youth, the speed. He likes to push the pace. He's very in your face, and yeah, I took him.
Yeah, we'll see who gets it done this Thursday over in Nashville. But two Frenchmen, they've put them together. The battle of the baguettes. Oui, oui. And next up, we have arguably the worst fight on this card. I don't know how this one ended up, and I don't know why this one is the third fight currently. We'll see if this gets moved to the opening bout. But we have Jason Danner taking on Nathan Gilmore, and I'm going to kick this one off. Both guys, obviously, not necessarily very high level. Jason Danner's only had 2 professional fights up until this point. When you watch tape on him, both of his opponents that he's been able to beat have been very, very low level. I want to say the guy's record that he just beat was something like 6-19. So obviously not the best level of competition. He just come out very, very aggressive in round 1. He also might gas as well, because we've not seen him go longer in fights. He was able to win both of his first pro fights in round 1. One by rear naked choke, and I think the other one by knockout. But I will say Jason does also have arguably the best name inside of mixed martial arts of Raw Dog. Very impressed with the nickname. We'll see if he's impressive on Thursday. But Nathan Gilmore, 4-5 in his professional career, and also very, very experienced inside MMA. He's actually had 25 fights overall, 17 amateur fights. So very definitely have the more experienced in this fight. He has decent kicks. He does stay very composed, but the only thing I will say here is when I watch Nathan Gilmore fight, he tends to be so composed that he'll allow his opponent to kind of build momentum into the fight. And he's kind of looking for something and then never really capitalizes. Whereas what I've seen from Jason is he'll come out very aggressive. He does get the finish, even if it is against low-level competition. He is smoking them in the first round. So that's all I can really go off of here. I think he comes out aggressive. I think that he's going to have great success early. But I wouldn't be surprised if Gilmore is able to withstand an early barrage here from Jason and ultimately get a late stoppage or be able to get to the judges' scorecards after Jason kind of blows his load. But I'm going to go with Jason to get it done early round 1 here. Carlos, who you got in this one?
Well, I love the fact that you just fucking hated on both of their experience levels. They should be the first fight of the card. So you want the card to start in a bad way. I understand what you're saying. So
get them out of the way early.
I understand. Just get him out of the way, get the crowd upset. Now, here we go. So, Danner, I actually wrote that I thought he looked pretty good just because even though there was a 16 and or 9-16 record, whatever the guy had, I just he came in and did what he was supposed to do against a guy with experience, and he looked okay. But what I do think is that Gilmore, he's one of those guys. He may not really have had like a gym for a while until as of late, and he started coming on late. Like he's on a 3-fight win streak. He's 4 fights, but the last three are victories. And what he does is he's actually trying to he is a little slow and he does look for things, and if it's not there, he may struggle. But what he does have is he gets out of bad situations, and he's patient enough to counter every once in a while. He's not the best at it, but he's patient enough to do that. And I think just those little things, as you said, Danner might blow his load trying to get the finish early. I think those are the things that might play against him. So I ended up going with Gilmore here. Uh, I I'm hoping Jason just goes and continues his 3-0, 2-0 to 3-0. But if Nathan is one of those guys that today is 4-5, and a couple of years from now he's 18-5, that would be pretty cool. But as of right now, this fight is going to be a stinker.
Yeah, I will say this. I flip-flopped on this one pretty much the whole entire week when I've been looking at it, and I was going to go with Gilmore, but I can't discredit Jason's ability to finish the fight. And I will say, whichever way this goes, there isn't going to be any money on it from me, that's for sure. And next up, we have Alexei Pergande taking on Mike Bardsley. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this one?
I ended up going with Alexei Pergande. Okay, and he has good striking, very educated with his feints, good hesitation. You don't see that a lot. A lot of guys never like to set anything up or get their opponents to move. He's loose. He's relaxing his movements. He does have some hard striking. Pergande has good ground control. Um, Very nice foot sweeps from what I've seen. He has some fake knee taps, and he'll either throw an uppercut after it or he follows through with it. Pergande also, brings an 8-inch reach advantage, so that's also another quality he's got, and he's got 5 inches of height on this guy as well. Bardsley, I don't know. I'm not going to say I wasn't too impressed, but he's going to have a lot of problems. The majority of his wins are by submission. He's only got like 6 fights, I think, and that's great and everything, but he doesn't seem to have the means to get it to the ground. He doesn't really have strong wrestling, is what I'm trying to get at. And Pergande, I think, has the ability to keep it on the feet. So on the feet, Bardsley looks like a fish out of water. So I feel that it's going to go the way of Pergande.
Yeah, 2 for Pergande here for me. I was pretty impressed with this kid, to be honest with you. Trains out of Killcliff FC. Very, very nice striking. You can tell that he's in there with killers and high-level guys because he seems very, very well-rounded for a guy at 24 years old. 5-0 as well inside the PFL, so he's got experience inside of the PFL arena. I don't think the lights will be too bright for him. Mike Bardsley actually got finished in his PFL debut, and that's his only loss. And most of the other fights that he's had that he has been able to get wins in have all been very low level competition. Guys that have got either losing records or kind of 500 records. And to me, one of the things that really stood out to me with Alexei Pergande is he could mix it up and kind of have success wherever the fight goes. He's very, very violent on the feet. Nice counter strikes, whether it be straight shots, head kicks, teep kicks. He's very, very sort of rangy. Obviously, like Carlos mentioned, the 8-inch reach advantage that he has in this matchup, and also as well, we've seen him go the distance. We've seen him choke people unconscious as well, and I like him wherever this fight goes. And I do think here with Bardsley that, as Carlos did mention, he doesn't necessarily have means to get fights to the ground. A lot of people have talked about him as a wrestler, that he's primarily a wrestler, but most of the people he's getting down, it's not like he's getting great entries and being able to take them down with ruthless double legs or single legs. It's not technical wrestling. He's just trying to brute force low-level guys to the ground. So I agree with Carlos. I don't think his wrestling is going to be that good here to be able to get this fight to the ground. I could see maybe Alexei getting some sort of dast or front choke or guillotine here if Bardsley just try to get a takedown. But if not, and this fight stays on the feet, I like Bardsley here. I like Bardsley pretty much to get knocked out here again. Give me Pergande here to get it done on the feet or on the ground. I feel fairly confident in him this week. And next up, we have Kendley St. Louis taking on Magomed Berkhamov. And I'm going to kick things off here. And Berkhamov, he obviously got his chin checked and he got knocked out against Adjoudj, who we're going to see in the main event for this card against Jason Jackson. And to be honest with you, I've never really been that high here on Berkhamov. I'm probably butchering that name, but sue me. He fights on the outside. He kind of bounces light on his feet. He does like to mix in a little bit of wrestling, but ultimately he does like to kind of stick to the kickboxing and the striking. But one of the things that I noticed about him is that his record, and I noticed this and I said this in the last fight, is very, very padded. If you go and look at his 17 wins there again against some very, very questionable competition, when he does sort of exit the pocket, he does tend to leave his chin up in the air, and Jean was able to capitalize on that. He does have a little bit of a submission threat, but he never really tries to get fights to the ground. He doesn't have the wrestling all the way to get it there. And I don't necessarily, I'm not that high on the guy, but I do think he gets it done here against St. Louis. Decent grappler in St. Louis. He likes to be able to pressure forward. He tends to use his striking to kind of barrage his way into range to set up his takedowns. Not necessarily known for his striking. He will kind of do the, I don't want to say Juliana Pena because it's kind of disrespectful to him, but he kind of just throws the 2-3 wild shots in order to get his opponent to bring up the guard and then shoots in for the legs and back him up against the fence. But I think honestly the footwork here of Berkhamov is going to be enough. He's going to be able to dance around on the outside, use his kicks at range, and ultimately use his striking here, maybe to pull off a decision, or maybe he's able to land the kill shot here as St. Louis comes in. But give me Berkhamov here to get it done. Not really that confident in him, but give me him to get it done.
Yeah. I went with Berkhamov as well. They both have a pretty good grappling game, submission game. Technical striking, pretty much I gave the edge to Berkhamov. Like you said, he's got his issues when he's exiting the pocket. That's how he got clipped actually twice. He has fought the better opponents of the two, mainly Jean and Lorenz Larkin. I still give the edge on the ground though to St. Louis because he seems to be very he doesn't rush from position to position. He's a little bit more methodical. He has good top pressure. He likes to sit and move to the next position, whereas Berkhamov just kind of rushes to the next position or he'll swing his body there. Neither one is bad. It's just I feel that St. Louis is a little bit more old school in that approach to it. Pretty much, one of the reasonings that I'm taking Berkhamov is I feel that he's probably got you stated already is that Kenley's going to probably have to at least throw a Hail Mary and catch him on the way out. But technically on the feet, I think Berkhamov has the edge, and I think that's where he's going to pull out the victory.
For sure. 2 for Berkhamov here to get it done on Thursday. And next up, we have Joseph Luciano taking on Sharik Shields. And this one was actually supposed to happen on the last card. Unfortunately, the fight fell through. I can't remember the exact reason, but Shields is pretty much a wrestle-heavy sort of brawler. He likes to come out very, very aggressive in round 1. He's very muscle-bound. He likes to come out, look for the takedowns, back his opponent up against the fence, and try to get top position. He does have a couple submission victories, but I will say one of the things that I don't really like about Shields is that it's kind of first round or bust to me. He comes out, he gets the takedown. If he can't get that takedown or he can't get into dominant position because of his build and his muscular size, he is going to gas, in my opinion. Luciano is a fairly decent grappler. I've been impressed with him. His stand-up is very technical. He does try to stay very much within himself. And I've actually seen Luciano fight a different opponent. I forget the exact name off the top of my head, but his opponent came out. He got him against the fence. He looked to try to take him down, and Luciano was not budging. He had great takedown defense, and what he did is basically just weather that storm, let his opponent get tired, and then he took over from there. And I could see the exact same thing happening here against Shields. I don't necessarily think this one one plays out on the feet. I think Luciano's going to be able to get a dominant position maybe in round 2. He does have good submissions. He does have good grappling, whether it be in the wrestling or in the submission threat. I like Luciano here to get it done on the ground, maybe by submission in the 2nd or 3rd round. I do think that Shields is going to gas and maybe have success early, but ultimately get tired, and Luciano's going to take over from there. And I will just say as well that Luciano's basically his only real loss that I've been able to see that of any sort of credential is Malakav, Jonathan McLaugh. I don't know how you pronounce that last name, but he looked pretty impressive inside the UFC. So his losses do come against higher level guys. I think he runs through Shields on Thursday. Carlos, who do you think's got this one?
I'll go with Luciano in this one as well. I do think that Shields a little bulky, you know what I mean? And if he pushes the pace, his cardio might be a little questionable. But I do think that, they both want to get this to the ground no matter what. That's what I feel. I feel that Luciano, on the feet, he tries not to make too many errors. He knows that technically he can fight on the feet, but he's not trying to put you out. He's just trying to keep himself safe and look for an opening to get you down. I felt that he fought the better competition as I was looking at the records. I think he fought the better competition. He did lose to them, but I think he gave him a little bit longer of a run in the fight. And for that, I went with Luciano.
2 for Luciano. And next up, we have Jeremy Kennedy taking on Adam Borchek. A little WWE reference for you guys. Let me know in the comments if you knew that one. But I'm going with Adam Borchek here. I've always been impressed with Adam Borchek. I think that he's very tough, very durable. Unfortunately, he was knocked out by Jesus Pinedo in their last fight. But Jesus Pinedo's proven to be a little bit difficult and obviously a great finisher. But I like Borchek's volume. I love the fact that he always presses forward. He loves knees and elbows in the clinch. One of the things that I did notice with him as well, especially in his last fight and watching tape study for him for the last fight and for this one, is I'm really impressed with how he just kind of touches. He doesn't necessarily put everything into every single shot. He's got 5-round cardio, which obviously isn't going to be an issue here in the 3-round matchup. And to be honest with you, I just kind of like this fight for him in the respect that Kennedy did make a good showing in his last fight against Movlid. Does train at Extreme Couture, but I think the wide stance of Kennedy is going to be a problem here. I think Borchek is basically going to be able to walk him down. He's always going to be on the back foot. I think he's going to be able to chew up that lead leg. I think Borchek keeps this one on the feet. The volume, the pressure of Borchek is going to be too much. And I think really with Kennedy, even though he did have a good showing against Movlid, I think that was probably the best that he had. I don't necessarily think that he could replicate that performance here against Borchek. I think that he can come out pressure and just basically land the volume here and maybe even get a late finish with his volume, because over the course of 5 rounds, he can put up a good amount of strikes. In 3, I expect it to be even more. So give me Borchek here to get it done. I wouldn't be surprised if Kennedy just tried to mix in the grappling. He did try to go for some takedowns against Movlid, but I ultimately think this one plays out on the feet and Adam Borchek gets it done. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I also went with Borics. They're both similar in age, and size, experience. They're both pretty well-rounded. I kind of give the edge of kind of athleticism, kind of that explosive factor to Borics. When he sees an opening, he's all over you. And if he knows you're hurt, he's all over you too. At times, Borics looks like pretty unstoppable. He's a fairly athletic guy, very strong for the weight class, long limbs, long strikes. I like watching this kid. I've always liked him. I was surprised when he actually beat what was that kid I was very high on too. We'll get back to that later. Sorry about that, guys. So in their first meeting when they fought, Borics actually just overwhelmed him with strikes and movement. Kennedy, he had good defense, solid, kept a high guard, kind of kept himself safe, lost a decision there. I think that Kennedy since that time has been a little bit on the decline. They're at prime age, both of them, but I just think that, like I said, he's on that downward spiral right now, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's going to win one, lose one, win one, and I just feel Borics is he's still fresh, still looking, and I think I think that loss to Pinedo, it's not that it's a fluke. Pineda's a hard he's hard competition. He throws in combination, but Borics sometimes gets a little sloppy with a strike, and he got caught. I don't really see too much into it, and yeah, I'm going with Borics.
Yeah, I think Borics comes in here motivated after that loss to Jesus Pinedo for sure.
Yep.
And next up, we have Movled. I'm going to butcher this one. Khaybulaev taking on Tae Hyung Kim. And I think it really just goes to show that the level of Movled, I'm gonna not even gonna try to pronounce the last name again, but in that last fight against Jeremy Kennedy, he had to really dig deep in that fight to be able to pull that one out, and he demonstrated good striking and good wrestling. Obviously trains with Khabib and his team, Dagestani wrestling style, but he's really fallen in love with his power and his striking, and I do think that sometimes does get him in trouble, especially as a shorter guy for this weight class. He does have a lot of power. He had that nice knee finish that's been one of the highlights inside the PFL. But he's also, to me, that in that last fight, he showed that he can bite down on his mouthpiece and have to overcome some adversity. He's not just a lay and pray wrestler. He can come out and he can mix things up, and he does have a lot of toughness, which you tend to see a lot from some of the Dagestani guys. And to me, Kim, when he fought over in Brave, he did fight a lot of tough Russians, not necessarily tough to the extent of Movled. He did beat a few of them, but he is very active off of his back. He does get taken down. He will accept bottom position and try to just throw up triangles and arm bars off of his back. I don't think that'll work here against Movled. I think that'll get him beaten up on the ground and pounded here. I don't expect to be able to see a submission victory here for Kim. He has obviously got the height and the reach advantage in this matchup, but I just think here that the wrestling's going to be a good path to victory here for Movled to be able to get this fight to the ground. I don't think that Kim's necessarily seen a wrestler like Movled. And I do think that the only real path to victory here is for Kim to get some sort of crazy triangle or something off of his back. I think in the striking, I give the power edge to Movled. I do think that Kim does stay fairly technical on the feet, but realistically, he likes to be able to get submissions and transition on the ground. But I just think the top pressure here of Movled is going to be enough for him to get it done and advance through to the next round. So give me Movled to get it done. Carlos, who are you going with?
I'm gonna go with was it Khaybulaev here? I think that's how you say it. I don't know. I think he can best him anywhere it goes, just because he can control where the fight's gonna be, whether it's on the ground or on the feet. But the other thing too is, like, even Kim, he likes to be on the ground as well, and he's always looking for the submissions. I just feel that Khaybulaev's his wrestling could smother those submissions in any position. Like, I'm sure he's well versed in where the submission's coming from, what's open, how to prevent it, and I think he gets the win, whether it just be with ground control, ground and pound, stand up. I think he's got it wherever it goes.
It's tough to choose against a 22-0 Dagestani wrestler guy.
It is.
And next up, we have Logan Storley taking on Matsuki Kikamura, and I'm going to go with Logan Storley here. I think this one kind of picks itself here. I don't think that Kikamura is seen a wrestler like Logan Storley. Storley is a little bit undersized for 170 at 5'9", but what he lacks up in height, he makes up for in pressure and heavy style wrestling. A 119-27 wrestling record, 4-time All-American. Obviously, I like Logan Storley here in this matchup. I think that he can come out and get the wrestling going. And we saw in his last fight that, once he gets fighters to the ground, he has good top pressure. They do not get back up. And to me here with Kikamura, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that last name right, but you know who I'm referring to. He does stay very, very measured on the feet, which I do like. He's impressed me, especially in his PFL debut. He does stay very, very much within himself. So he may sort of stay very measured here and make it a little bit more difficult here for Storley to get some good entries on his takedowns. He doesn't necessarily overextend on any of his shots. He may have a nice game plan to land a nice straight knee or shot up the middle for Storley, but I've always sort of said that Kikamura's high fight IQ in fights is pretty much...
Kakamura, I love it. Go ahead, brother.
Kakarora. I'm not 100% sure how you say that name.
Keep going. I love it.
His fight IQ is what gets him done, and his fight IQ is probably a lot better than I pronounce names. But I just think here in this fight, I think Logan Storley is pretty much going to get his wrestling going. I think that Kakamura. It's going to be very, very difficult to take down early, but I think ultimately the wrestling prevails later on in the fight. Carlos, who are you going with, the Cuck or Storley?
I'm going with Storley. The wrestling's going to be a huge factor here. On the feet, Storley's he's good enough to keep himself out of danger. I'm going to go with Masayuki instead. Masayuki, he doesn't look very impressive on the feet. So even if he can keep this standing, I don't really know if he can do anything to Storley. I think that Storley's just going to press him up against the cage and get him down. Or he can time something and shoot. Who knows? But that seems to be his method: is get you up against the cage and press, get you down. And yeah, I mean, whether it's ground and pound, I mean, Storley, he's got a lot of finishes with strikes, a lot of TKO stoppages, but a lot of those are just ground and pound. It's not even standing, so that's a little deceptive if you think he's going to knock him out on the feet. Like I said, on the feet, he's a little bit of a fish out of water. Keep himself safe. Does a lot of damage on the ground. Doesn't really look for. I don't think he has a lot of submissions, but he's got a lot of stoppages on the ground. I think it's not going to change this evening. I mean, that evening. But with Masayuki, there's always he can throw something and put Storley out. Who knows? Because he does throw wide and looping, and sometimes you just don't see it coming. So yeah, we'll stay with Storley on this one.
We'll see if Ian Gary or Storley gets it done on Thursday. And next up in the co-main event, we have Gabriel Braga taking on Jesus Pinedo. We get to the tournament bracket here for these two. And I got to say, I believe this is a trilogy fight. I believe these two guys have already faced off, splitting it 1-1 each way. And I think this is going to be an interesting matchup here. I think both guys are going to have a good read on each other based on their past fights. But Gabriel Braga does have power in the hands. He did almost get submitted in his previous fight, was able to show good toughness to get out of the guillotine. And I do like Braga. I do think that he is very, very talented. But I do think that Jesus Pinedo just has that little bit more power. Both guys can be very, very low volume. But I think I just give the edge to Pinedo. I think that he sets up his shots very well, which is why he's able to knock so many guys out. He can hit you with all of his different limbs. He's able to hit knees up the middle. He's able to land hooks, elbows, and he has great takedown defense as well. So I think really this fight's going to play out pretty much how their last fight where Jesus Pinedo was able to land a big shot. I do think with Braga that if he could get more of a volume game going, he could maybe just tap at the low kick, fight at range, fight on the outside. He might be able to win this one. But I just see that Pinedo is going to land a big shot at some point that he's been basically proven to do, and ultimately get the win here, mostly by knockout, and get through to the next round. And I just don't see Braga being able to put up enough volume to be able to win this fight. So both guys could land. Both guys are very, very heavy-handed, but I just trust the power of Jesus Pinedo a little bit more. Carlos, who you got in this trilogy bout?
I'm also taking Pinedo as well. In their first meeting, even in the second one, Braga was able to do a lot of damage with the leg kicks, the calf kick, and that's good and everything. I didn't even think he won the first fight because, as you said, he didn't have a lot of volume, and Pinedo actually throws good combinations, not just with punches. Like he'll throw some punches and end with kicks. He'll throw some kicks, and if he's close enough, he'll end with elbows. And that's what I like to see. I like to see someone mix up the strike and the different levels of it. And that's actually how he ended up winning in the second fight. Was the combinations kept coming, and Braga just didn't see it coming because he thought the end of the combination was the punch beforehand instead of the second one. So I don't see it being any different. I think Pinedo's actually learned from that, and he's going to bring this to this next fight. Can Braga do anything different? That would be the case. Is just, I would say, keep tearing that lead leg because it does slow him down a little bit. He wasn't able to use that lead leg at all when he was striking. And I think that if he adds a little bit more punching, I think he could get a decision. But that also may be what gets him finished because Pinedo's going to be looking for that opening, and he's got that big reach advantage.
And that brings us to the main event of the evening, the one we all came to see. We have Jason Jackson taking on Jean, and this black-on-black violence, man, it's got to stop. Battle of the Caribbean, come on now, PFL. We got Jason Jackson, the PFL, the PFL veteran, fighting out of Killcliff, the former PFL welterweight champion back in 2023. I've been impressed with Jason Jackson, one of the arguably, maybe even up there with Raw Dog as one of the best nicknames, the ass-kicking machine. Very, very athletic on the feet, good boxing, good takedowns. And I do think that he gets it done here, but it pains me to say that. I've watched a lot of Jean fights. I've watched him up and come inside the MMA world. Got a good fan base. He's building something here, but I think that this is where the Jean train ends. In a lot of Jason Jackson's fights, if he's the one going forward, he has a lot of success. And I just think here with Jean that in a lot of his fights and the opponents that he's beaten, he's been able to use his athleticism and his striking, or maybe a little bit of his wrestling just to kind of get it all done. But I think that with Jackson, he's just better in every single bit of every department of the game of MMA. I think with Jackson, I think what he can do here is he can tap away at the low kick, beat up the lead leg of Jean. I think he can then shoot and mix in takedowns. When Jean's thinking about the takedowns, he can implement his striking and just really show the level of experience that Jason Jackson has inside the PFL Smart Cage on Thursday. I think Jason Jackson gets it done, but I will say Jean is very impressive. I do think we're going to see big things from him moving forward. He is an athletic striker. He can mix in wrestling, good takedown defense, but I do think this is going to be too much too soon for him here. I think the experience is going to play a factor. I mean, Jean's live for a knockout like he proved in his last fight with his athleticism and the power in his hands, but I just think Jackson's experience is going to be too much. He's going to have a good game plan. Give me Jason, the ass-kicking machine Jackson, to get it done in the main event. Carlos, who you got in the Caribbean Showdown?
I also went with Jason Jackson. I enjoy the style of Jean because he's just kind of trying to bull right into you and put you out. And, you know, as he does that, he's still very patient about it. You know, he's usually the aggressor, which is always great for me. But, you know, what's great about it is besides the patience and everything, he doesn't just throw random shots. You know, he's very smart about it. But the one thing I think is Jason Jackson, he's a little smarter of a fighter, like, you know, when it comes to one that's more well-rounded. I haven't seen a lot of Thad's wrestling, and if he has any, I'm not too sure. But what I did see was that Jason Jackson will take it to the ground if he's losing on the feet, and even if he's you know, when he's on the ground, he'll mix in ground and pound. He'll mix in looking for submissions and trying to find openings. He'll take you down even if he's not losing on the feet. Why? Because it makes the fight easier for him. You know, he'll do a lot of things and he'll take it to a lot of places if he has to, because he has those options. And I don't know if Jean has those options, but what I do know is if Jean is swinging and he sees an opening and he catches Jackson, he's likely going to put him out. So he's got to be wary of this kid's got some good power. He's got some hard strikes, and he's just got to be on his P's and Q's that night. And but I'm still going with Jason Jackson.
2 for the ass-kicking machine to get it done in the main event and move on. And as we move on, we have to talk about what is coming next on the channel. We have the full card breakdown for UFC Atlanta. Usman taking on Buckley. That video will be live shortly. You have to keep an eye out for that one. That's why it's important to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a beat. We got straight to the point picks. My quick picks video will be coming out later on this week. 15 minutes or less. Full card breakdown with my confidence level traffic light system to let you guys know who I'm picking for those fights. And we also have the dog of the week. Who will it be this week in the UFC? My favorite betting underdog. Full highlight reel tape and breakdown will be in that video. Keep an eye out for that later on this week. And before we wrap things up, Carlos, do you have anything you want to say to the people?
Well, I just want to apologize. I was trying to remember a name. I did remember the name was Pico. Finally, you got to give this old brain give him a chance to think. And hopefully you like the content. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, amen. And if you enjoy the content here, like Carlos said, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you don't enjoy the content, I'm sure you enjoy me butchering all of these names. So we'll tune into the next one, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.